Hi, how are you? Happy Wednesday. I hope you're all okay. Hope everyone's fine. It's gone cold again. We had the sunshine for one day. It's gone cold again. Brr. I've even had the heating on just for half an hour this morning because it's blooming freezing in here. Hopefully you're all okay though. Hopefully everybody is all right. Maybe you've got the sun by you. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But definitely not in Dennis Powers today. Definitely not. So I forgot. Really sorry. I forgot to put on the challenge post yesterday. Sarah and I were really busy sorting out orders and then getting everything back sorted from all the clearance sale, and it completely slipped my mind until I was like, just about to come live. I was like, I didn't do the challenge post, so I will definitely put it on as soon as I come off, okay? I will do the challenge post for you, okay? So I want you to show me your Easter, and we're gonna run it over the Easter break. And like we said yesterday, it can be anything Eastery. It might just be like a family pic if you want to. It could be anything at all. So say hi if you're there, my darlings. Hopefully you're going to join us. We're going to do a block today. We're going to be playing around with some half rectangle triangles, HRTs today. Hi Kate, how are you, lovely? So yeah, we're gonna have a little play with that. So I know we've done HRTs before, but we've done them as like partial seams around a central piece. What's that? Caroline, got both the boys again today. It's an indoor day today. It's not stopped raining. Oh, I know, bless you. It's not rained here yet. We haven't got a little man today, so because Roz is off this week, so he's got a Daddy and Jonah day today. But I'm going to go up and see him in a minute because I'm off today. So so I'm still doing this, but I'm off today, so I'm going to go up and see him in a bit. Hi Anne, how are you, lovely? So I'm going to go straight to the overhead, and we're going to talk about this little block that we're going to do. So I actually messed this one up. So this was the one that I did originally to try and work out the sizes and everything. And then when I was putting this one together, this was last night, serves me right for doing things late at night, and then me and Alex were redesigning his quilt as well. I've realised I put these two the wrong way round because the medium should be in the middle, but it will still give you an idea of what we're going to do, okay? What we're going to look at is HRTs going in different directions. They're very different HRTs. I'm going to call them HRTs because half rectangle triangle is just, it's too much of a mouthful. So HRTs are very, very, very different to half square triangles because it's a long, thin shape. We've got to put them together slightly differently. So that's what we're going to go through. This little block it's a lovely little block, and actually I've called it a knot because I think it kind of looks like almost like a Celtic knot type thing. And when you put them together, they look really cool together, and you can actually then sort of start making, when you put lines together as well, you get these sort of lovely sort of like twisty motions happening as well. Okay, so what you're going to need for this little block is some background fabric. Okay, so for each block you need 6 background get my words out, background rectangles which measure 3.5 by 5.5. okay, sorry, excuse me, I'm just gonna grab a tissue because my nose is running today. Let's say hello. Hi Helen, how are you, darling? Hi Nikki. Hi Carol. The rain stopped playing the garden. Oh no, you like this? Oh, lovely, fabulous. Yeah, it's a nice little block, this one. It looks really lovely. I think it makes a beautiful table runner, but you would also make really pretty placemats or a quilt if you want to have a go at it. So 6 background rectangles which are 3.5 by 5.5. And then you could do this completely scrappy if you wanted to. You could do lots and lots of colours, but I've gone with 3 colours, sort of a light, a medium and a dark in these blues. And again, you need 2 of each. Well, actually, I lie. For one block, you need 1 of each. If you're going to make more than 1 block, you need 2 of each. Ignore me. For each block, you need 1 of each. I cut 2 because I was making extras. So you need a light, a medium and a dark, okay, like that. This will make 2 blocks, okay. So we're going to just do on 1, and then I'll show you how to put the rest together. So first of all, we're going to do is 1, 2 and 3 like that, and those 3 will go with those 3. So I've got 3 background, 3 colours, individual ones, okay. Now, in order to get these going in different directions, we have to mark up our background fabric slightly differently. Okay, can you see that these seams are going in opposite directions? And because of how HRT is put together, you do need to mark them up differently. So this is kind of the first thing that's a little bit different. Okay, we're going to mark two. We're going to mark on the background fabric. Okay, we're going to mark 2 of them with the lines going from top left to bottom right. Okay, so I'm going to just mark up with one of the Friction pens or whatever mark you use. We're going to go from top left to bottom right, and we're going to do that on 2 of them. And then in order to get that reversed thing, we're going to do one that's the other way around. So we're going to do that from top right to bottom left. So going in the opposite direction to the other 2. Okay, so like that. Here we go. Okay, hi Karen, how are you, lovely? Hi Jane, no worry, don't worry about being late, my darling, you're absolutely fine. So I've got 2 going top left, bottom right, and I've got 1 top right, bottom left. Okay, so we're going to start with these 2. Put this one aside for a second. It really doesn't matter which fabrics you match these up with, as long as, I think for the pattern you always do the same ones. It really doesn't matter which. So I'm going to go with my light and my medium on these 2, and my dark on the other one. Okay. So if we, like with half square triangles, you would normally just line them up right sides together, wouldn't you? And we would stitch down either side. But if you did that with these, let me just fake this a second for you. If you just stitch down 1/4 inch like that, you'd get these funny sort of kite shapes. So you don't want to do that. Okay. You need to offset the background fabric. And the easiest way I find to remember is I'm going to look at where my marking is in the top right, the top left here. Okay. And I'm going to move it to the opposite corner. So on this one, my marking is in my top left, so I'm just going to move the whole thing, swizzle it like that. So it's now in the opposite corner to where it's marked. Does that make sense, hopefully? And then where this one is on the top right marking, I'm going to move that to the opposite corner, so that goes top left. Okay, so it doesn't matter which way your line is going, you're just going to move that, you're going to look at where the top corner, top mark is, and move it to the opposite corner each time. All right, so with these 2, my line is in the top left, so they're going to go opposite corner like that, and then I'm going to line up corner to corner, so you get this really funny looking little piece. This one's top left, so I'm going to move that bing like that to my top right, like that. Now, this is one of the few times I do actually pin things, because it's very easy when you move things to the sewing machine, this can move and then you forget which corner it's going to go into. So we're going to start with these ones, all right? Now I am going to stitch down 1/4 inch either side. So over to the machine we go, over here. Sorry you lost track of time, hope you're all well. Oh, don't worry, my darling, thank you for joining us. So, excuse me, I am extra snuffly today. I don't know why, just one of those days. I'm going to now treat this just like a half square triangle. I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch down both sides of the line. So I've got my little guide on the drawn line, and down we go. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way down this side, on this one, and turn it off. You're going to have to catch up tonight with having electricity. It's becoming something like we're getting used to in South Africa. Oh no! Oh bless you. Oh well, please do catch up when you can, lovely, and stay safe. There we go, and then I've swizzled it around, and I'm doing 1/4 inch down the other side. Like that. There we go. So that's the first one done. There we go. And then we're going to do exactly the same on this one. So I'm just treating it 1/4 inch either side of that drawn line. Down that side, like that. And then we're going to flip it round and do it this side as well. There we go. All the way down. Perfect. Right, so we're now going to show you how to, what we're going to do with these. So we're going to go back over to the overhead. Here we are. I can take those little pins out now. There we go. And then we're just going to cut up the drawn line. So this bit's very similar. It's just the fact you need to offset them because otherwise they don't work. They don't work. So cut up that drawn line. You end up with some funny little pieces that look like that. And cut up this drawn line as well. Okay. Like that. Now the squaring up of these, I'm just going to very quickly iron these, and I'm going to iron them just towards the darker fabric. Okay, so there's one there. I'm not going to move the ironing board in today. You're just going to have to imagine what I'm doing. But I'm just ironing the seam just towards the slightly darker fabric. Okay, and then we're going to go down this one like that, and then this one. What's that, Jane? I've got a real problem where to sew to get my 1/4 inch right. I think I might need to practice more, I think. When we do the next one, lovely, I'll go through it again for you, okay? And I'll go through it really carefully on this as well for you. So you've got 4 at the moment that look like that, and we need to square these up, okay? So there's a couple of ways we can square these up. Let me just start with one of these. Now, you want them to end up being 2.5 by 4.5, okay? And because there is a little bit of wastage with these because of how you have to square up, but it's worth the wastage to get really nice crisp shapes. I tend to always use my ruler, but some people struggle with that. So you can make yourself a little template, okay? Which is all I've done here is I've just cut a little piece of copy paper. You could use freezer paper, you could use template plastic, whatever you like, which is the finished size, which is 2.5 by 4.5, okay? And basically you want to do these, you can see that the seams go in this way, okay? So I want to put the 2 corners, top right, bottom left, like that, on that seam, like that, okay? And then you can draw around it, or you can line up your ruler like that with the edge of the template and cut round to get nice. If you struggle with reading the markings on your ruler, or maybe you're not quite sure about, hopefully I'll explain it okay for you, but hope you're not quite sure about it, this is a really good way. And you see that it's a little bit squiffy. I've got less here than I have there, but that's just how HRTs work, okay? Cut yourself a little template and you can use that if need be, okay? However, you can use your ruler, you don't need a template. So what I'm going to talk you through is how to find the markings on your ruler. So I'm going to use this piece of white fabric under here, and hopefully you can see this. I want these to end up being 2.5 by 4.5. So there's a couple of little markings I need to find on my ruler. So I'm going to go across to the 2.5, and I want to go across to the 4.5. So 2.5 at the top there, and down here to the 4.5. And basically I want to follow the line along to there, and where the 2.5 intersects with the 4.5 is that little mark there, okay? I'm hoping you can see that. You might not be able to, but you'll get the idea. So I've made a little mark on my ruler. This is just going to wipe off, but I've got a little mark there that I'm looking for. We're then going to square up. So I want to get that little mark on this seam line. So I'm going to put that on the seam line there. Hopefully you can see that the corner here is nowhere near that seam. So what I want to do is keep that little mark on the seam down here with the 4.5 and 2.5 intersect, and move my ruler until the 0, 0, the very corner, also hits the seam. Okay, so I've got it there and there. So the 2.5, 4.5 intersect hits the seam, and the 0, 0, the corner, also hits the seam. And can you see how skew-whiff that ruler looks now? Okay, so you're just going to keep moving it around like that until it's in place, which is basically what you would have done with that if you want to use a template. And then going to hold it down nice and steady at one side and across that way. Okay, so I've trimmed off down the right and the left and the top. Now I can turn this so that's down to the bottom, and I can go exactly 2.5 by 4.5 like that. Okay, You're not worrying about, normally with, like when we're doing HSTs, half square triangles, we're looking for the 45-degree line on the seam and all. You're not doing that with these because it doesn't work. Okay, so don't worry about that. You're looking for those 2 little points. What you get there then is a perfect HRT with hopefully the seam is coming out of each corner exactly. All right, I'm going to do that one more time for you. So then we're going to do the other way because you square it up slightly differently again. Okay, it's the same technique but slightly different markings. So 2.5 by 4.5 intersect, which is down here. I'm going to get that on the seam, and then I'm going to get that corner on the seam as well. So I'm moving it around like that. Okay, also make sure that your 2.5 and 4.5 are still within the fabric. You know, there's no point trying to get it down here if you haven't got the fabric to cut off. So we're just going to move it there to there like that, and then I'm going to go up that way across the top like that, and then we can turn that to the bottom just like we did the other one, and now we can do exact 2.5 by 4.5, which I've got there and there. Okay, so that's squaring up your HRTs. Okay, so I've now got 2 of those. All right, like that. You can see they now look exactly the same, nice and neat, and exactly what you want. All right, you would go ahead and do that for your other ones as well that have gone this way, so exactly the same method. All right, I'm just going to put those aside a minute. Now we're going to work on the one that goes in the opposite direction. Okay, so this one was, the drawn line was top right to bottom left, so it's in the top right corner, so we want it on the opposite side. So we're going to flip that like that, so we've got it on the opposite side. Pop a pin in, and then we're going to over to the machine, and we're going to do our 1/4 inch. Okay, so how are you all? Is everybody okay? Hi May, how are you, lovely? Hope you're well. So Jane, when you're looking at your 1/4 inch, if I was sewing a 1/4 inch seam, I would be trying to get the edge of the fabrics right up against this guide. So if I just put the foot down a minute, I'm not going to sew obviously because it's not in the right place, but I want it to be butted up on the inside of this guide, and that should give you a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, if you lift the foot, if you put the guide on the edge of the fabric like that, or even though it's only like a thread out, when you're sewing lots of pieces together, particularly when they're little pieces, all those threads add up. Okay, so you really want to make sure wherever possible it's butted against the guide. Okay, the other thing you can do is actually draw a 1/4 inch line with a marker. Okay, and again, when you're drawing the line, when you sew it, you want to go just one thread nearest to the edge for it, so that when the fabric folds out and you've got that tiny little bit of bulk of the seam, that's basically what they call a scant 1/4 inch, when you're just under, literally like a thread's width under your 1/4 inch, so that when you iron the seam out, that little bit of bulk of the seam kind of doesn't take up a bit of your 1/4 inch. When I'm sewing using a drawn line, I'm using the blade directly on that line to get my 1/4 inch. Okay, it is practice, your 1/4 inches. It really is practice, and there's lots and lots of things out there that you can buy that people might help you. A lot of it for me is just getting to know your machine, and finding where your 1/4 inch is. A lot of machines, like this one's got a 1/4 inch setting on it, which you use with a normal foot. I'm not a massive fan of that because it's very easy to go over the edge of the foot. The whole point of having this little guide is it helps you, but you've got something to butt up against and really concentrate on. So just keep practicing. The best way to get your 1/4 inch right, let me just come over here a second. So the best way to test whether your 1/4 inch is right is to get 3 strips of fabric which are 2.5 inches wide. Check your cutting and make sure they're definitely 2.5 inches wide. Sew those together, and your strip should measure. You love my nails? Oh, thank you, darling. I've got Easter nails. Meg did them. Your strip should measure 6.5 inches exactly. If your 1/4 inches are right, when you put 3 strips together, the strip set should measure to 6.25. Sorry, because of the 1/4 inches, it should measure 6.5. Okay, 6.5 exactly. If it's not, your 1/4 inch isn't right. So just grab some scraps, you know, old bits of sheeting, anything, and just keep practicing and make sure you cut correctly on your 2.5s. Sew those strips together and they should measure 6.5. And it's one of the best checks whether your 1/4 inch is right. Okay, so back over to here now, lovelies. And I'm going to cut up that seam on this one. So remember, this was in the opposite direction of the other two, like that. And then we can iron these out. So I'm going to, again, iron it towards the dark, like that. Just gently press them out. And this one. Yeah, I had little pastel colours with white polka dots for Easter. Okay, so you can absolutely use your little bit of paper with this again. So because it's in the top left, you're looking at the top left and the opposite, the bottom right, and you would line those up on the seams like that and draw around it and cut out. But you can use your ruler as well. So because these are going in the opposite direction, again, we're still looking at that 2.5, 4.5 conjunction thing, but we want it in the opposite way. So at this time, I'm going to look for the 2.5 up here and where the 4.5 meets the 0. Those are the 2 points I'm looking for this time to line up. So 2.5, 4.5, like that, and I'm getting those on the seam. So I've got my 2.5 on the seam there, my 4.5 on the seam there, and I'm going to cut out this way. Okay, this one I think is doing it this way is slightly more difficult than doing the other. But once you've done a few, you kind of get it in your head that you're going to cut one way for the one way and cut the other way for the other. Hi Natalie, hello darling, how are you? Jelly rolls often have serrated edges. Does that make a difference to a 1/4 inch? Yes, it does, lovely. Absolutely. Grab it. Let me just square this up and I'll show you. Grab it when you buy a jelly roll. The serrated edges, they aren't always an exact 2.5 inches. They're not. And you can trim them if you want to. It depends on how accurate your pattern needs to be. If you're doing a log cabin or something, don't worry about the serrated edges, okay? So I'll do that again for you. I was talking while I was doing it. So 2.5, 4.5, that's what I'm looking for. There and there, like that. Okay, so then I'm going to cut up that side and across the top, like that. I still haven't replaced the blade. I need to replace the blade. And then I'm going to flip that down to the bottom, and now I can do it my exact 2.5 by 4.5, which is there and there. So, would be if I didn't move the ruler. So I'm looking for my 2.5, 4.5, and trim off that bit. Okay, so I've got my ones going that way in the medium, in the light, and I've got my other ones going this way in my dark. Okay, so I'm going to need, I trimmed some before we came on, so I'm going to need 6 in total. 4 going one way with the line and 2 going in the opposite way for this block. Just before we put the block together, I'm just going to show you, I've got a jelly roll strip here actually. Here we go. So jelly roll strips do have a little serrated edge, absolutely they do, and they should measure 2.5 inches. Okay, which this one actually is pretty good. The 2.5 inches is from the point, not the valley. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, guys, but with the serrate, the 2.5 should be from the top of the mountain, not the valley. Okay, so you're measuring 2.5 by 2.5. It's minuscule, the serrate, absolutely minuscule. It is all going to disappear in your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if I just mark a 1/4 inch on this one, but it depends on the manufacturer because not all jelly rolls are the same. Okay, so if I just do a red line here so you can see, that's your 1/4 inch seam allowance. That serrate there is not going to matter at all, but you're going to think about keeping the point of the mountain, not the valley, against the guide. It really is minuscule. That one's got a slightly bigger serrate on it, but again, you're looking at, you know, a millimetre of serration. So it shouldn't matter, okay, because it's going to disappear in your seam allowance. Just double check that the jelly roll that you've bought, let me go, just measure that. You can see that, I don't know if you can see here, but that's my 2.5 inch line. The valley is just slightly under. It's like a 32nd of an inch in, okay? Just think about the points. Is that okay? That really helped. I'm more of a visual learner, so that was great to understand. Brilliant. That's all right, lovely. It just is that's what we're here for. Ask the questions, guys. If even if it's not necessarily related directly to this, I'm happy to try and help if I can. You're then going to lay your block out. So I've got 2 of my lights, 2 of my mediums going that way, 1 of my dark. Okay, and then we're going to lay them out. So I'm going to go a medium one first, and then I'm going to turn this one to make that little like chevron-y look. Okay, so I've got colour to colour here, and then this one here, which is one of my dark ones, which is in my opposite direction, that is going to go down like that. Okay, so can you see I'm making like that harlequin-y shape. So they're matching here, going one way, and then my opposite direction coming back down. So I've got like a double and then a little blip. All right, and basically we're gonna do the opposite of that. So there's my opposite one, but I'm turning it to come down here to make like head of an arrow. Let me just go up a little bit because I think I'm a little bit out of shot. There we go, like that. There's the head of the arrow. And then these ones, now this is where I went wrong on the other one. I put them the wrong way around, okay? That one's going to go like that. It's basically, you want it the same as this, okay? Like that, all right? So what it is, if I turn this that way, it's actually the opposite way around. Can you see, like that? But these are the same, it's the same configuration. If you're using scrappy stuff, if you're using all scrappy bits, it really won't make a difference. So I'm going to sew these together in 2 rows like that, and then top row. All right, so if you've got that configuration, hopefully you can, so if you want to do this, you can screenshot this or just pause me and you can look at the configuration. Okay, so we're going to sew this one to this one, so right sides together like that, and this one to this one, right sides together like that. Okay, back over to the machine we go. So hi Lynn, how are you, lovely? There we go. So I'm just going to line those up, right, like that. And this is where I'm actually doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm really trying to make sure that I butt that fabric up so that it's not going under that guide. It's right up against the guide. And slow it down, slow it down. If you're worried about your 1/4 inch, slow it down. You can always, if you feel like you're always going over your 1/4 inch, move the needle over just 1, so you can do it like onto 4 rather than dead center. My dead center is 3.5 millimeters, but it might be that actually in order to get that really exact 1/4 inch, you need to move it over to 4. If you're using a 1/4 inch foot, just make sure it's not going to hit the foot when you sew. Okay, and then I'm going to take these 2, which is the bottom row, because I'm going to chain piece these. Go like that, but also don't worry too much. Really don't worry too much. There's no quilt police. As long as you're enjoying your sewing and you're getting it as best as you can, it all comes with practice. It all comes, I've been patchworking for 20 odd years now, and I still mess it up all the time. You're putting yourself into tension for being late. That's it, in the tension, in the sewing room with you, Lynn. Okay, so this is my bottom row, so I'm just going to finger press that one out for now, and I'm going to add this one on now. And again, I'm making sure those coloured ones touch. I've let it out, just keeping it all in order. Once you've made a load of these, you could obviously then chain piece them if you want to. There we go. So sew that down, 1/4 inch. Now when I get to this seam here, can you see it's getting caught a weeny bit here? So I'm stopping, I'm lifting my foot, and making sure everything's just tucked under nicely. Sometimes the neater you can be, the better the better everything will lie, and you don't get any twists, which can sometimes mess up your seam allowance as well. And then I'm going to add the 3rd one onto the top row, so that's going onto there like that. Now, another little trick. If I know that one's going on like that. If I try and shove all this under here, I've got all that bulk and all those bits to get caught up. You can also kind of nest those in a little bit as well. So flip it, because this end here is nice and neat and flat. You've got no seams that end. So knowing that I'm going to sew this edge, flip it over and start from the other side. Again, that can just sometimes help with the accuracy if you're not, like, if everything's not being caught in, and moving. Down we go, like that. So I started sewing more of Alex's quilt last night, because I'm doing that bordered hexes one for him. And so I'm going to come over here a second. And we started putting it together, and we both decided it really wasn't working. It wasn't quite working how he wanted it. So we spent about an hour last night, or just deciding oh, wrong one. Spent about an hour last night just deciding all the different combinations of colours and strips and all in there. He had some very definite ideas. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that it's ironed in opposite directions. So this is my top one, so I want to iron these to the left. This is my bottom one, that's going to the right. Okay. Oh, what's going on? Why am I not over here? Am I over here now, guys? Am I on number 2? There we go. Sorry, I think we had a bit of a delay thing going on there. So, sorry, I was going to say top row is going to go to the left, bottom row is going to go to the right, okay, with the seams. So I'm just going to pull this over just a little bit. Again, I always like to do it from the top. I like to finger press it just to make sure it's right first, like that. So this one's going one way. I've actually done this the wrong way around. This is, well, not the wrong way around. It's this one's going to the right, so the bottom one will go to the left. It really doesn't matter, as long as they're going in opposites. Can you see as well, you've got this piece here now, which means that when you join them together, you're not going to lose your points, okay? That piece there, you want that little bit there, okay? And then this one, because that's going to the right, this is going to go to the left. So they just finger press that there. So I'm still making mistakes on the cameras because I can't work out how to change the keys. So I'm going to have to wait for Drew to come over and change the keys for me. But then by the time he gets over, no doubt I'll have got used to the keys, and then I'll have to get used to the new one. So that didn't iron very well there. So let's just press that. Okay, with all of this amount of bulk, you really do want to think a little bit about your ironing. Okay, so these are now going to go together. So I'm going to put this one on top of this one, like that. And you're going to nest these seams. Okay, so I want to make sure that that little seam there is nested, and I'm absolutely going to pop a pin in. So diagonal pin there. Yeah, this is definitely one for a little bit of thought, this one. Okay, it's not a wham bam put a block together. This is a slightly more considered one. Now I know that when I start sewing here, I've got all of that bulk happening, all right, at the top. So I'm actually going to start about here, stitch a little bit, and then I'm going to stitch back into it again. Or you can use a leader. Some people use a leader first, but I find even with a leader, sometimes this amount of seamage can be, get in the way and get all, mangled up. So I like to start in a little bit, sew down a little bit, and then sew back into it, and it just seems to stop that mangling bit happen. You watch it happen now. After I've said that, Murphy's Law and all that, it's still going to happen, isn't it? So I'm going to actually start in a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to take a couple of little stitches, and then I like to reverse into it. I just find that works a bit better normally. So I'm going to reverse almost to the end. Yeah, it did as well. Rat bag. That always works. Teaching me a lesson, isn't it? There we go. Just me saying that helps. Didn't help at that point, did it? There we go. So, and you can hear as well from the machine I've sewed right down, because I don't want to rush that seam. There we go. Oh, came up. And where am I on now? Am I on 2? I'm on 2, I should be. Oh, my brain can't remember this today. And then we're going to open this out. Now, there is quite a lot of bulk in that middle seam. If you wanted to, you could iron that seam open. I'm not a massive fan of ironing open. So, I'm really wonky there. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to go back into that one because that's not going to lie flat. There we go. So, I didn't quite do my 1/4 inch there, which is going to affect the block. So, I'm going back in and sewing it again to get my 1/4 inch. There we go. That's better. I want a bit wonky. There we go, back over there. Okay, that's better. And now, so if you want to, you can sew it open. You don't have to. If you've got a good iron, and maybe an iron press as well, you can absolutely just stitch that, you know, give that a good press. But if you've starched your fabrics before, that will help. Okay, so that's your little HRT knot done. You could make as many of these as you want. It should now hopefully measure 6.5 by 8.5, which it does. It's a little tiny bit out there. You could square that up if you want, but that's nearest, damn it. You can then add these together. So get that jelly roll out of the way. So you can see that's that one like that. There you go. So I've got the light at the top, and you get this lovely sort of, hang on, let me move some of this out of the way. That's the problem with having the camera fixed now. I can't move it. I've got to move myself. You can get these lovely pieces happening like that. You see that, guys? So that it almost looks like it's kind of twisting and rolling down with it. Move that up just a weeny bit. There we go. And then you could do another row like that. Okay. It would look, I think it would look beautiful as a table runner. Really, really lovely. Stunning as a border on a quilt. You know, if you've got blocks and then you want a really beautiful border, it would look lovely as a border on a quilt. Really different. Pick out some of the colours that are in the quilt and use that. You know, I mean, 9 would be the really pretty centre of a quilt. You know, a little lap quilt or something. 2 actually would be quite nice if you just then put a little border around as placemats. You know, so it's just a really nice way of having a little go at a different technique. HRTs are a bit like curves. They scare people a little bit because of the squaring up and how you have to offset. But I think sometimes it's worth just having a little play around. You know, even if it's just a cushion cover. You know, you can put sashing in between those. You know, let's see, let me just put a little bit, you know, can you see what I mean? You could put a little bit of sashing in between, maybe with an accent colour or something. You know, you could be beautiful in monochrome actually with just an accent colour in between his sashing. But have a little play. So that's a little block called an HRT knot. Okay, because I think it looks a little bit like a Celtic knot. You could play around with your colours. In fact, actually, because I messed that one up, if I do that, you get these long pieces happening here. So then I could, hang on, let me go. So you get your long piece happening there, and then if you flip them, you get these lovely like long sections happening. Don't know if you can see that, guys. There we go. So you get these long sort of like long elongated diamonds happening as well. You know, so there's lots and all you can play with around with this block. It is, you know, it's one of those ones that people get a little bit scared of, but don't, it's fab. Right, that's it from me then, my darlings. Sarah will be here tomorrow. I can't remember, oh, she's doing the jelly bean bag, which is the pattern that was in the subscription box. So if you have the subscription box, it's definitely worth tuning in tomorrow because she's going to take you through on how to make that pattern. If you don't have the subscription box, then tune in anyway because you'll be able to buy the pattern on the website. Another box to add to your list. Oh, that's all right. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely Easter. I hope you all get to do something relaxing and fun, whatever that is you want to do. And I'm off to see Little Man now. I'm going to go and see Rory B and Little Man and see what's happening. I don't know if I've got him tonight or not yet. We'll sort it out when we get there. But yeah, I'm going to go and see my little sausage for a couple of hours. Happy Easter, everybody. And I will see you next week. So Sarah's off Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So the 1 o'clock's for me because I'll be in the shop by myself. So obviously I can't leave to do the 1 o'clock. I'm going to do them in the evening. So there'll be 2 7 p.m.s next week. Tuesday and Wednesday will be at 7 o'clock. And then Thursday we'll be back to 1 o'clock. Okay, so otherwise I can't do any 1 o'clock, so you've either got to have them in the evening or not at all. So yeah, anyway, happy Easter. Don't eat too much chocolate. Have a glass of wine or a gin and tonic instead. It's obviously much better for you. Take care, darlings. Bye.